Yo, what's up, Killer Knife fans? This is Kevin here, and I have a disassembly of a Strider SMG. This is an aluminum gunner grip with tiger stripe titanium and a tiger stripe blade. It is 154 cm. Let's get this to focus for you guys. Beautiful, made in USA. I did just take out the pivot really quick to just make sure I could do it because it was really locked in there. And I'm using a tool called a Park chain nut tool. I think it's called Park Tool. You can order this on their website called parktool.com. I went off of another person's recommendation that this would work, and for the most part it did, but I had to file this to make it thinner, and I basically filed it on an angle, and I had to do a little filing in between. Obviously not a professional job, I'm just trying to get this to hold the pivot here, which is from what I've been told, a bicycle chain pivot. So this is a bicycle chain nut tool, and this is what Mick Strider has used in the past. And from what I see, I don't see him using it too much now, but this is a brand new knife, so I guess he still uses it, but I've seen he changed his hardware up a little bit. But like I said, I just popped it out to see what was going on and if I could get it out. And it was really, really locked in there. Just FYI, if you are somebody that just purchased the Strider, they really lock it in there. So we're going to use a 3-gauge Allen key. And we're going to use the Park tool, and we're just going to jump into this disassembly. So with the Park tool, you want to use the shallower side. There's a deeper side. This doesn't fit at all. It's too wide and too deep. So just basically, you'll see, just align these into the pivot there, right? Try and get this on camera for you all. You just line it up in there. Like I said, I did a little simple file work. I used my Leatherman file on my multi-tool, and I got it done in like 5 minutes. The tool for the Strider that they sell online is like $75, and I wasn't gonna just spend $75 to take a pivot out of my Strider once every 3 months. I'm not gonna. It's a bit steep. It does look a lot nicer than this. If you're going for aesthetics, you know, spend the extra couple bucks. Another thing I noticed is that my Kubotan is excellent for popping this pivot out without creating any damage. So I'm gonna pop my Kubotan in there and pop this out of there. Which is not working this time for some reason. It worked great before. I don't know why it's not working now. Oh, maybe because the frame is engaged. There we go. Disengage the frame to pop this out. It puts a lot of tension on the pivot, and then you should just be able to remove this very easily. And most Striders have an integral face. It's not integral, it's 2 pieces, but you can see there's no pass-through, so just keep that in mind. And you'll see this is well worked with oil and a little bit of grit. So we're going to clean that up real nice today and get some amazing action on here. I'm just going to set this here. Remove the bearing, the washers, and place the blade down. And then we're gonna just start disengaging the frame here. Looks like T8. Could be wrong. We're going to check right now. And I'm trying to like be as engaging as possible with you guys. You know, I'm not really planning this out too much. So I want to make it like spur of the moment. Like if you guys wanted to go ahead and take apart your knives, you know, you're not going to be like sitting there planning it, as far as I can tell. These are T10s actually, just FYI. I just really wanted to take this apart. Nothing against the knife itself, it's just put together very tightly, which to me is also a sign of good craftsmanship. But I just want the knife to swing open a little easier. I'm not looking for like drop shut action or trying to bend the frame lock. I've heard some people really are like all about that, but I feel like over time it'll wear in, and we'll see what we end up with here at the end. So remove the frame screws. You can leave the over travel stop in place, and we'll see what we got here. And let's see if I can just get this to focus a little better for everybody. Nope. My autofocus is off. All right. So you can see there's a lot of, I mean, I'm probably wrong. You know, it's not rust, it's the metallurgy and the oil they use in the warehouse where they're making these, and it just kind of looks like it's rust, but it's not. You can see it better on this. All right, so look, this is brand new, and you know, this has a little bit of grit to it, so that obviously is playing a role in the action of the blade. Okay, so we're just going to clean that up. Try and do it as quick as possible. Paper towel. I have a little bit of Windex solution with some white vinegar today. I'm out of rubbing alcohol. Just going to use that to make sure it's nice and clean. Get in the pivot hole here. Make sure that gets nice and clean. This knife is really, really nice. You can tell there's amazing craftsmanship that is in the works, and I'm really looking forward to the way this is going to be moving after we get it back together. So just like always, when you're disassembling, just remove as much of the grit as possible, because that's the #1 enemy of your knife's action. You want to make sure that you can get all of that out. All right, and then we'll take both these washers, drop them in the solution here, and get them nice and wet, move them around. And cleaning a knife is not like the most, you know, like you're gonna get a little dirty. Your fingers are gonna get dirty. Your knife is gonna get stuff on it. And at the end, you know, after you place your knife back together, you can, you know, wash your knife off. So, you know, the goal isn't to take the knife apart and get it in perfect, clean, working order as soon as it's back together. The main goal here is that you're gonna want to remove as much grit and any kind of substance, such as like powdered metal, or in this case maybe some of the Cerakote that goes on the blade that might have worn off. You just want to remove all of that. The main goal here is always the pivot and the area around the blade. So these washers are certainly one of a kind from what I can tell. I haven't seen any of my knives with washers like this. They're pretty thick, probably about, I would say about 1/16 of an inch thick, which is pretty reasonable, and you can feel the weight in your hand. Not heavy by any means, but just a lot different and a lot more heft than other knives I've taken apart with phosphor bronze washers. So also pay attention to the frame, both sides. You're going to want to get some of the solution here and just kind of like wipe that off. And we'll wipe everything off again before we put this all back together. Get this side nice and clean, and we'll dry it in a second. Same thing with this side. Get all of that residue off. Make sure you're getting in there so that the pivot has a lot of residual cleanliness to work itself back into place and be super smooth when you're done. All right, so that's definitely clean now. Just gonna dry it off, pat it dry. All right. I recommend a thicker paper towel than I'm using today. I'm not sure what the name brand is I'm using, but it's kind of junky. Requires you to use a lot more, and they tend to flake off. Anyways, just dry it up real good, and you can see there's still a lot coming off there. No big deal. We're gonna make sure this pivot is beautiful and ready to go. Wipe the blade off if you spilled anything. All right. Again, one more time. Get in there really good. There's still a little bit. All right. So it's very interesting because how tightly this was wound down, and this is smart too because it helps with your action in the future. You're going to get a much smoother action by how tight it is. So it's not necessarily the tightness that was impeding on the action here. That this is going to create a groove eventually, and that will really help with the action. So we're still going to try to put this together relatively tightly. All right, let me just make sure this is all wiped up so we can have a clean assembly. All right. And in the meantime, now that we're ready to go, we have everything. I'm going to wipe the pivots, make sure those get nice and clean. More of this cleaning solution here. Make sure the pivot gets really nice and clean. Let me just say, you know, Mick Strider is like somebody that is doing really awesome things and has always been doing awesome things. So, you know, pay my respects right here. His knives that he's made in the past and now that he's making here at 2021 are absolutely insane. Just, the guy is an incredible talent in the knife industry. I mean, that's the least I can say. It's kind of mind-blowing stuff that he's doing right now with some of the blades he's doing. Just incredible work. And that's really something that I admire as a knife fanatic, is just the incredible amount of talent that goes into designing the tolerances and just the great craftsmanship and beauty of the knives that I purchase is just crazy. Especially the American-made knives that are handmade, just incredibly admirable, to say the least. All right, so, you know, we're kind of taking a ride here. You're here with me, guys. This is the first time I ever did it. Like I said, I just kind of removed the pivot before just to make sure I could get it out on camera and not really embarrass myself, and make sure that we could have a good working video here. Little Q-tips to get some finer detail work done here. Same thing on the pivots. Get in there, Make sure it's nice and clean. You know, I'm well aware that, you know, you're not going to have perfect action on a knife straight from the manufacturer, the maker. And that's no slight to them. That is just, it just is how it is. These guys are in there and they're working really hard, and there's metal everywhere, and they're assembling their knives, and they're selling them, and they're putting them together the best that they can right there. And you know, if you're buying a knife, you should know how to disassemble it and make it the way you need it to be, if you know you're not happy with exactly how you receive it from the maker, right? So that's what we're doing here. All right, so the first thing, the first thing here is, I think I'm gonna put the frame back together on this since it's integral. I recommend you guys would do the same, and we'll get some Loctite going. Guys, you don't have to use Loctite. I would say it's pretty much preference. I don't plan on taking this knife apart too often here, so you know, I want the knife to hold together really nice, and I don't want to worry about anything shaking loose. All right, my camera's being weird. I think that's the best we're gonna get it. So let's get this right back together. T10, and just kind of drop these into place. Shit, I'm making a mess, guys. Sorry about that. Like I said, this is not, I'm gonna have to run these underwater really quick. I made a little mess. Like I said, guys, I'm not doing a lot of editing and stuff. You know, stuff happens. I want to include you. I know it's, you know, maybe it comes off as less professional. I'm not really sure, but you know, sometimes you run into some issues when you're taking apart your knife, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna keep this in here for you. We're gonna do it together. You know, stuff happens. So I'm gonna get this in there. We'll put it in relatively lightly. Get a little Loctite. Get it into place. I know these disassembly videos can get a little long. I'm trying to be as thorough as I can and just not leave out any pieces of information for you. So, you know, if you guys got to skip through, or, you know, you don't want to watch it because it's a long video, I understand. So just a little bit of Loctite on the bottom of each screw. Lock them down. I'm not gonna lock them in super tight right away, but we will go back through and do that. So the first thing here is kind of like a Sabenza, where you're gonna want to put the washers back first, and we'll start by putting a little oil in the detent track. There's a detent there, and there's a detent here. There's two detent tracks. We'll put a little oil on the detent track here. The lockup on this knife is really incredible. So we got some oil on the detent hole and the detent track, and now we'll put a little bit of this is nano 10 weight oil. We'll put that where the first washer is going to go. And like I said, the Kubotan is going to come into play here, because it's gauged to the point where it will slide through the hole and fit the needs of it, and this is going to help to put this blade back in. You know, I'm just discovering that. I'm sure there's other tools out there for that, but in this case I'm just using a Kubotan. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the outside here, both washers, and then we're going to slide this back in. So this is kind of like a Sabenza. This is the way I put my Sabenza back together sometimes too. So just get everything in there. You're going to want to lift the lock bar. The lock bar tension is very strong on this knife, so you're going to want to make sure you're lifting the lock bar up. So like I said, the Kubotan really helps in setting this all into place because it fits straight in there. Just make sure you're keeping the lock bar open. All right. Sheesh. Well, this is not going to plan. And of course, I'm, you know, I'm open to recommendations moving forward on a better way to do this, but maybe not put it together this way. That's what's running in my mind right now. It's like maybe don't put the frame back together. But anyways, pretty much in place. You want to be careful with this because you don't want to bend the washers. I'm wearing a hat, so it keeps hitting my camera. I'm going to take that off. All right. So once again, move this out of the way when you want to do stuff with this knife, because otherwise it's like really impeding on getting anything done. So slide this over and push the pivot through in the open position, and then we'll do a little Loctite on the pivot screw just at the end here. Okay, and I'll wash this out after. It's just a very interesting technique you have to use to put this knife together. So much different than other knives that I've disassembled and reassembled. This is my first Strider, so let's see. All right, so we got the number 3 Allen key, and we're going to tighten this up. Almost done. All right, so I tighten that pretty tight, and we'll see what's going on here. Yeah, so like it's so tight it won't even close. All right, so we're gonna loosen that up some more. Always check for blade play. I'm gonna have to wash this knife off after this. Get all this Loctite out of here. And that's not a big deal. Lots of blade play. Always check for blade play. Be as firm as possible, up and down, side to side. All right, cool. No blade play, and we're back together. And nice action, almost drop shutty, much better. And the reason why I haven't done a full review on this, guys, is because I'm waiting for this lock bar to break in. This knife is a beast. Just like, it's just a beast. And a lot like my Medford Praetorian tie took a really long time to break in, like almost a month of using it non-stop. And This knife, I'm assuming, will not be much different. It has a little lock stick straight from Strider. But that's something about, they don't use a steel insert. So guys, that definitely didn't go as planned, but that's my first time disassembling the SMG. It's a little more difficult than other knives, not gonna lie. But ultimately, we're gonna get a much nicer, smoother action out of this now. So it feels way better, not gonna lie to you. It feels great. And I'll keep you guys posted on a review of this in the future. Thanks for hanging in there with me and bearing through all my mistakes. And any kind of help you guys can leave me through the comments on better ways to disassemble or maintain this knife other than just blowing it out and spraying WD-40 in there. You know, I know that, but you know, I'm open-minded. And thanks for tuning in today. This is Kevin from Killer Knives. Have a killer day.